Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. Let's get into this topic. All right. So it was just a few days ago, quite literally, that we produced a series of shows that was centered on Shaquille O'Neal omitting LeBron James from certain lists, right? The first list involved him being ranked below MJ and Kobe at number 3. That pissed off some people out there. The second list was when Shaq doubled down, when he now released his his starting 5, where he omitted LeBron from the starting 5. We produced a show about it. A lot of people had a lot of things to say, and it was a great show, right? So just this morning, just when I thought that, well, this is over with, and to be honest with you, we had already shot the videos that we already had, and then as I'm preparing, I just looked and I said, oh, wait a minute, there's another story here. I'm like, okay, let's touch on this quickly, right? Maybe some people will be interested in this story here. So I came across an article here from Fadeaway World with the following headline stating, Shaquille O'Neal selects his all-time starting 5, explains why there's no room for LeBron James. Shaquille O'Neal knows people will be pissed off about LeBron James being excluded from his all-time starting 5. Well, at least y'all are honest with it. Because, in fact, folks, that's exactly what occurred. People lost their damn minds. But before we even get into what Shaq's explanation is, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members. Prize Picks makes it easy to get real money action on the sports and players you love. You pick more or less on at least 2 for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. For example, this week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at the upcoming NBA schedule and selecting Stephen Curry for more than 29 points and Kevin Durant for more than 27 points and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds and Luka Doncic for more than 8 assists. If you're like me and you like to play safe, you'll love Prize Picks' new feature, Flex Plays. It's the safest way to play. You can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. Plus, you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. On top of this, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as in 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into what this article says here. All right, really Shaquille's explanation. It says Shaquille O'Neal appeared on New Heights podcast recently, where he was asked to name his all-time starting 5. O'Neal went with a power-packed lineup, but there was one notable exclusion. Stephen Curry at the 1, O'Neal said, Kobe at the 2, MJ at the 3, Tim Duncan at the 4, and me at the 5. Nobody's beating that team. Leaving LeBron out was an interesting decision, and O'Neal addressed it immediately. Listen to this. I don't know how your guys are going to edit it, O'Neal stated. But let's just say I did that to somebody that didn't like us. And they'll lead off with Shaq excludes LeBron. And it causes like unnecessary beef. I hate doing these lists because I don't want people to think I'm dissing them. But you ask me, my team, I need a shooter. I need the best shooter in the world, O'Neal continued. Second guy I name is a guy who I helped raise. I know he's a effing dog. I know what he's going to do. And the other guy is Jordan, is the guy everybody looks up to. I know Kobe is going to be trying to do what Jordan trying to do. So you got Steph shooting threes. When I get double, O'Neal added, Kobe and Michael doing this inner thing. And then you got the big fundamental taking that MFer, facing up, shooting off the glass. And then you got me. That's my team. Even with James, who has won 4 titles, 4 MVPs, 4 finals MVP, 4 MVPs, 1 scoring title, and 1 assist title in his career, not on it, This is a great team. Let's have a look at his selections. Stephen Curry is O'Neal's point guard. He is and one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. Curry has 4 titles. These dudes are breaking down this list according to their accolades. 1 Finals MVP, 2 MVPs, and a scoring title in his career. He has made 11 All-Star and All-NBA teams. O'Neal's former teammate Kobe Bryant is a shooting guard. Bryant won 5 titles, 2 Finals MVPs, and 1 MVP, and 2 scoring titles with the Los Angeles Lakers. He made 18 All-Star teams, 15 All-NBA, and 12 All-Defense. Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest player of all time, has to be slotted in at the small forward in this team. Jordan won 6 titles, 6 Finals MVPs, 5 MVPs, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, 10 scoring titles in his career. He made 14 All-Star team, 11 All-NBA, and 9 All-Defensive teams. Tim Duncan got the nod. Okay. O'Neal chose himself as center, and this is the one instance where someone can't be called out for being biased. He won 4 titles, blah, 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 blah. And then the article then goes on to say a few things. First of all, let me say this. I don't think Shaq was making up his starting 5 based on this guy has 5 MVPs. No. I think Shaq is looking at it from a basketball standpoint. Hence the reason he didn't bring up accolades. Right? The only soft accolade one could say is Stephen Curry, because you can say, okay, great, but there's no real accolade for shooting. Right? There's no like the best shooter this year in the NBA award. There's none of that. So Shaq is making his judgments based off of his basketball eye test from what he's seen. And he's looking at it from the team that he feels will give him the best chance. Now, I said this in the other show and I'm going to say it again. Generally, when starting 5s are made, they usually pick the best player at that respective position. So who's the greatest point guard of all time? People say Magic Johnson. Then you go, 2 guard, Jordan. Then people want to say LeBron James, and number 3, all the people argue Larry Bird, whoever. Number 4, you may say Tim Duncan. And then number 5, you can now go with Kareem, Shaq, whoever the hell you want to go with. Generally, that's how people construct their list. But in this case, you asked him his list. And now he's including himself in this scenario where he now constructed this list, right? But him having Jordan and Kobe, first of all, just think about a team that had Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant on it. It's like, can you imagine what a devastating team that would be? You ain't even got to name nobody else, to be honest with you. You ain't even got to name Shaq. You ain't got to name Stephen Curry. You ain't got to name Tim Duncan. Bro, you got a team with Kobe and Jordan. You would have the best scoring punch in the history of the universe. Literally. Like, then you have 2 all-NBA caliber defenders that are great help side defenders and excellent on-the-ball defenders. Bro, I feel you, Shaq. I feel you, son. I feel you, Shaq. I feel this list. I feel it. So what I want to know is, pause, for the people that's going to say, oh, what you mean? Pause. Let me just say that. All right. But anyway. All right. There are a lot of interesting stories, and I was trying to decide, okay, do we turn this into a show? Do we do a live? Or this is somebody said, oh man, you guys don't produce the show. You just shoot videos. And I'm like, man, it's amazing how these people know what the hell people are doing on YouTube when they have their platforms, and they don't have platforms, but yet they can tell you what you're really doing. They just think, oh, you cut on the camera and just start talking. Isn't it amazing? Must be nice. Anyway, so I was going through the internet here, right? And I was coming across some pretty ridiculous stories. But there was one particular story that caught my attention. And it was centered on some comments that that Isiah Thomas, NBA legend Isiah Thomas, made, where he was essentially saying that Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan were nothing before the arrival of Phil Jackson. And the reason I decided to respond to this particular show, because Isiah Thomas does say things from time to time, and we don't always react to it. But the reason I decided today, I said, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and respond to this one, is because there's a narrative out there that's associated with this line of thinking, which is, well, if LeBron had Phil Jackson, maybe LeBron would have 7, 8 championships right now. So Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant had the pleasure or the good fortune of being coached by Phil Jackson. Now, it's important that I say the following. Phil Jackson is one or the 2 greatest coaches in NBA history. He certainly has the resume to make that claim. But I think that it shortchanges Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, to be totally frank, especially Jordan, especially MJ. So this is the reason why we want to produce this show here, because we want to really break this down. So what we want to do now is want to quickly play what Isiah Thomas had to say here. It's a very short clip. He was speaking to Shaq, I think, after one of the games of the NBA Finals on NBA TV. So take a listen to what he had to say here, his line of thinking, and then want to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say.
You went to the NBA Finals, but you didn't win the championship till you met Phil Jackson. Kobe Bryant did not become Kobe until Phil Jackson got him. Jordan did not win until Phil Jackson got him. Now, we talk about coaching, right? And he mentioned Chuck Daly, Phil Jackson, Pat Riley. Well, you got a coach in this series by the name of Rick Carlisle, 65 years old, and we saw him the other night run a triple stagger that none of these OKC players hadn't seen before. So Rick Carlisle is bringing out some old school stuff.
Some Boston Celtics players.
Yeah. And all you need to do is get 2 points, right? So what they're doing now, again, OKC is playing against an old school offense, 5, 6, 7 players in double figures. Sometimes they come down and they don't even dribble the basketball in half court. They pass and move and cutting, and ain't no isolation, one-on-one, shake you, go left. They pass and move and cutting, and this is a different type of style of basketball that Indiana is playing that OKC hasn't been used to playing against.
So you heard what Isiah Thomas had to say. Obviously, he was trying to draw some parallels between what was going on there with the Pacers and all of that. Here's the reason why I think it was important for us to produce a show here to respond to these comments. It's just not true. It simply isn't true. Here are the facts. Before Phil Jackson became the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, Phil Jackson had coached a few teams to NBA championships. No, I'm lying. He had coached 0 teams, right? So for you to make the argument that, oh, Jordan got lucky by getting Phil Jackson, what had Phil Jackson won before he collaborated and coached Michael Jordan? What had he won? Nothing, right? Nothing. So both of them benefited mutually. When Phil took over, he introduced the concept to Jordan, which was different from what Doug Collins was doing, which was the triangle offense. Obviously, Tex Winters was one of the architects, or probably the architect of the triangle offense. Jordan bought in. They began to win. They also started getting great players. Like Tony Kukoc, Scottie Pippen developed into an all-star after he was drafted. They had Horace Grant. They had some other solid players. But the biggest indictment for people that say, oh, well, if Jordan didn't have Phil, he would have never won. Okay, there was a year Jordan didn't play. Did the Bulls win? I'll repeat it. There was a year that Jordan didn't play. Did the Bulls win? What about the situation with Kobe and the Lakers? What about when, after Shaq left, then it was just Kobe? Phil Jackson was there, but they were still losing in the first round. They were still losing in the first round. Am I lost here? Well, Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, and all they were still Smush Parker and all. Wasn't they still losing? Or Chris Mims and all, am I missing something here, or am I missing something here? Phil Jackson was sitting there right on the sideline while they lost. But what happened? When did Kobe all of a sudden start winning? when they got a good player in Paul Gasol and Andrew Bynum began to develop. Then Derek Fisher came back from playing with the Utah Jazz. So, yes, Phil is a championship coach. But one can make an argument that Phil Jackson would have never won a title had he never coached Michael Jordan, Kobe, or Shaq. Because the question is, what titles has he won outside of those guys? If you follow Kobe's career, you know that it was a collaborative process. But to expect Kobe Bryant to win championships with Lamar Odom and the roster that he had is laughable. In the West, to come out of the West, when I'm talking about the Eastern Conference here, the Cakewalk East, where you can roll a dice and boom, somebody may just pop up in the finals. No, we're talking about Kobe was playing in a legitimate conference. In a legitimate conference. Go look at the last, the docuseries, the documentary, the Muse and all. Go look at the role that Kobe played on this team. Who are we kidding here? But they're saying this to say, well, look, LeBron never had that. LeBron never had that, and somehow, some way, he won champion. Excuse me? LeBron had Eric Spoelstra, number one. Number two, he played. How many top 75 guys has LeBron played with? Certainly more than Jordan. What are we talking about here? LeBron has played with way more top of the shelf talent than both of those guys. So how do you explain that? Him not winning there. Oh, let me guess. He didn't have Phil Jackson, right? Like, come on with these ridiculous, insane, trite narratives. Isiah Thomas is better than that, man. He's just... Let's get into this topic here. So, as you guys know, we produced the show, I believe it was on Saturday. Yeah, I want to say it's on Saturday. They're centered on a story that's surrounding ESPN's Doris Burke, where there's rumors that she may get let go of after the NBA Finals, or removed at least from her coverage of the NBA Finals. It caused people like Richard Jefferson to speak out. Head coach of the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle, he spoke out, right? So with that news, I also heard Tim Legler maybe stepping in. But with that news, it made one to begin to think, well, maybe ESPN may need some better talent, possibly, right? And then I immediately thought of the crew, the Inside the NBA crew that's going to be joining ESPN next season. A lot of people have had thoughts about this, or whether or not this is something that's going to work, given the way that those guys kind of conduct their business versus how ESPN is known to conduct its own business. So Charles Barkley, as a matter of fact, has spoken to this. He said, number one, they're not going to work me like a dog. Number two, I'm just basically not going to be up there twerking, right? I'm going to give you guys my honest, unfiltered opinions. And if they want to try to mess around with me, I'm just going to quit, and they're going to pay me all my money, right? So Charles has kind of made his position clear on this. So this morning, I was going through the internet here, and I came across a report here from Awful Announcing with the following headline: Shaquille O'Neal shoots down concerns that ESPN will ruin the Inside the NBA show. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, because now we're also hearing from Shaq, which means that these guys for sure are hearing some of the murmurs out there. Okay, so let's get into what it says. It says, everyone's worried ESPN is going to ruin Inside the NBA. But has anyone actually asked the people who make the show how they feel about it? Because here's the thing, ESPN doesn't have creative control. They're just licensing Inside the NBA the same way they licensed the Pat McAfee show. And if Pat McAfee is an indication, Inside the NBA will be just fine on ESPN airwaves. Jimmy Pitero cared enough to keep the show going, but that doesn't mean ESPN will mess with what makes Inside the NBA, well, Inside the NBA. Article continues on. I don't have any concerns, because I know, one, that you're never going to change Charles Barkley, O'Neal told Eisen on the Rich Eisen show. And I know another guy that's really close to him. So, you know, the other two guys, Ernie is a consummate professional. He can adapt to any situation. Ernie's the guy that really keeps us out of trouble. And Kenny is a professional. But, you know, Chuck, right there on the line, and I'm right below Chuck. Chuck's not changing. I'm not changing. I actually saw something yesterday where it said ESPN is going to give us the same look they gave Pat McAfee. So listen, we're just going to go and have fun, do what we do, talk about the game we love, and just try to make people laugh. Eisen, whose show is set to be a part of ESPN's new direct-to-consumer offering, told Shaq he's been given similar assurances. And I was stunned, and I would be stunned in any way, shape, or form they try to change you or your show, Eisen said. And in the article then went on to say, a few other things here. Let me tell you why I'm a bit skeptical about all of this. You notice how they just brought up the Pat McAfee angle? How Pat McAfee was given kind of free reign to go up there and do what he wants to do and just conduct his businesses the way they used to do it prior to them joining ESPN. Are we talking about the same Pat McAfee that was calling out ESPN executives by name? Are we talking about that same? Pat McAfee has had some turbulence at ESPN. He certainly has. But here's the fundamental difference. I think that Charles and these guys have a shorter fuse. I think that if they try to frustrate Charles in any type of way, Charles will walk off. He'll leave. Right? He'll leave. And I think Shaq and these guys will follow suit. That's number one. Number two, here's why I still believe, even though Shaq is saying this, even though we're hearing reports that ESPN is going to let them do what they want to do, here's the reason why I still remain skeptical about this thing working. And I'm going to tell you why. I believe that ESPN has a series of shows, whether it be Get Up, Around the Horn, First Take, all the other shows. And they generally tend to have similar talking points, because what ends up happening is that some of those people that you see on maybe like Get Up, you may see them on ESPN First Take. You may see them on NBA Countdown. You may see them pop up on the Pat McAfee show. So generally what happens is ESPN leans in a particular way, like any other network would lean, the way Fox would lean, the way MSNBC would lean, the same way CNN would lean. They all have their leanings, right? You now bring in a group of guys who, for the most part and by and large, never have the same views that ESPN has, who has their star in Charles Barkley, who has historically called out the network. Literally. He has called out ESPN on so many occasions. So let's think about this practically. These guys join ESPN. On one time slot, you have them twerking it up to the high heavens on one time slot. The very next time slot, you have Inside the NBA guys who's basically saying everything you just heard was a bunch of BS. Everything you just heard is a bunch of BS. And then what happens when you now start having people like Charles Barkley make guest appearances on First Take, or these other shows where they twerk, where they have a panel full of honey slinging twerkers, and then you bring them on? Now the messaging is out of whack. So that's the reason why picture the panel. Malika Andrews, Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley. Think about all the twerking those other people do. Now think about Charles Barkley. There are going to be so many awkward situations on I Just Believe So. Unless you're telling me they're going to keep them totally separate from all the other shows. But then, how does this sound when, for instance, let's talk about the Lakers? You have all of their other shows talking about, man, the Lakers are going to be the best. They're going to be great this year. The Lakers are going to kick ass this year. The Lakers may go to the finals this year. And then you have inside the NBA, man, them Lakers suck. They're horrible. They're garbage. So how does it work with the messaging? Because remember, ESPN, a lot of these guys, they twerk it up to attract Laker fans and LeBron fans to their network. That's what they do. So they just grift all day long. Even when they know they're not good, they're going to say it anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a smooth sailing the way some people are trying to paint it, like, oh no, it's going to be fine. They're going to do that. I don't believe so. Now, I'm going to say this. I ain't the first person to produce this show. I got to give credit where credit is due. Shout out to my man, Too Raw for TV. He was the first one I saw touch this side. And let me tell you, he was laughing his ass off during that video. I was laughing with him. It was so funny, right? So, as you guys know, this whole GOAT debate and who's the greatest player and blah, 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 it's a never-ending conversation. And it will never end, right? Just part of sports. People are always going to do it. The most recent back and forth we saw surrounding this topic was on ESPN when they had on Mike Wilbon. After Mike Wilbon made the comments like, you're telling me if I gotta have LeBron over Kobe, like, what are we talking about? Then he goes on ESPN First Take. Kendrick Perkins is up there. They're having this conversation who the GOATs and Stephen A. Smith. If you ain't got, so everybody had their talk, right? But if you listen to people at ESPN who twerk it up all day long, who pour honey all over each other's ankles, who holler and scream, shake it up, twerk it up, you would think that, well, damn, it's only Jordan and Kobe out here. And LeBron out here. And this is what everybody else thinks. Like, what we say is what they all think. When the fact of the matter is, you guys are just pushing narratives. And in reality, in the world, people feel differently and people have different lists. So what happened? Apparently, Tom Brady was being interviewed. I think he was in a car going somewhere, whatever. And he was asked to give his GOATs or his Mount Rushmore GOATs. And Tom Brady went on to start listing people. And as he's listing these people, we're all sitting here and waiting and saying, where is LeBron James? Do you know Tom Brady listed everybody and their grandmother except LeBron James? Okay, we want to play what he had to say. It's not a very long clip. Take a listen to what Tom Brady had to say there. And then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to his comments there.
Who is your Mount Rushmore of GOATs?
Michael Jordan. He was my childhood idol. He was unbelievable. Obviously, I loved Kobe Bryant. I still love Kobe Bryant. Tiger, his competitiveness, what Roy McIlroy's done. I love that. Shohei Ohtani, what he's done has been unbelievable. Barry Bonds. He went to my high school. I was the biggest fan of him growing up. Michael Phelps. I love him. Michael Johnson. Asia Wilson from my Las Vegas Aces. I love her. She's amazing. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, this little thing they got going. I love that. It's been really exciting.
So you heard what he had to say. Now, there was an article that also reported on this, which was a Fadeaway World. It says, Tom Brady snubs LeBron on his Mount Rushmore of GOATs. I think Clutch Sports went to bought this website. It goes, Tom Brady, one of the most decorated athletes in sports history, has never been shy about expressing admiration for greatness. Yet, his latest take on the Mount Rushmore of GOATs left many NBA fans stunned in disbelief, especially supporters. Nah, it left you, LeBron fans, stunned. And you guys at Fadeaway World who are LeBron fans, it left y'all stunned. The rest of us wasn't stunned. That said, in a recent Bleacher Report interview, Brady was asked to name his personal pantheon of athletic greatness. He named all the players that he named. And then it continues on. While Brady clearly meant no disrespect, omitting LeBron, the NBA all-time scoring leader, four-time and arguably the most influential athlete of the 21st century, did not sit well with fans. The backlash was swift and brutal. Brady and LeBron are known to share warm mutual respect. They've congratulated each other publicly on career milestones, post together in events, and have even shared a spotlight in an upcoming Shop episode during the Fanatics Fest NYC alongside Victor Wembanyama, Kai Cenat, which is what made Brady's omission of LeBron even more intriguing or insulting, depending on your perspective. Some argued Brady simply listed his favorites rather than a true all-time ranking. Others saw the inclusion of up-and-coming stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese as symbolic, not of their accolades, but of their impact on culture and shifting the landscape of sports. Still, leaving LeBron off while including younger names sparked accusations of bias or even ignorance. Yet, Brady's list may say more about his nostalgic values than his analytical criteria. How can it say more about his nostalgic values when he just listed contemporary players? Fadeaway, stop twerking when you're writing these articles, please. Y'all must have honey sit next to you on the table while y'all be writing these articles. His repeated admiration of Jordan reflects the era he grew up in, a time when MJ was larger than life figure, influencing kids like Brady to dream big. Blah, 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 blah. So what about Kobe? When Tom Brady was winning the Super Bowls, Kobe was winning championships. It just can't be that that's his opinion. There must be some, what did he mean? What is he up to? For as much as LeBron is pushed down the throats of many sports fans, one would have thought that it would have been an afterthought for Tom Brady to mention him without even thinking, right? Conventional wisdom would have told you that. You say LeBron, blah, 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 blah. But for him to go through the list players like Jordan, Kobe, and all the other, let me see, some of the other athletes that he met. I think Michael Phelps, he mentioned Michael Phelps, Shohei Ohtani, Tiger Woods, all of these people. And then he left LeBron. Do you know what that makes me think? It makes me think that he's not on his Mount Rushmore. For the fact that he had enough time to think about it, it just means that he didn't feel that. The article tried to say, "Oh, there's a nostalgic factor," but the problem is he mentioned contemporary players like Caitlin Clark, Shohei Ohtani. So where's the nostalgia there? Where's the nostalgia? They just can't wrestle and come to terms with the fact that their guy wasn't up there. And just because he wasn't, so therefore, oh man, there must be some ulterior motive. There must be some ulterior motive. Look, Jordan is the equivalent of Brady in football. They're both regarded as the greatest players in their respective sports. In terms of him saying Kobe, what's the surprise here, bro? I don't understand. Does ESPN be giving birth to you? Do they got like a place where they give birth to kids in ESPN? Is that where y'all came from? Y'all wasn't born in the world? Duh! Kobe had a major impact. Are you joking? Son was that dude. Oh, are you kidding me? Who has the most worn shoes in the NBA today? It's Kobe. NBA players was about to lose their mind when they found out there was a possibility they were going to be discontinuing the Kobe Bryant line. What are y'all talking? Why y'all so shocked about this? Brady sat down and watched Kobe win 5 championships. He sat down and watched his impact with the Mamba mentality. What are you talking about? Of course he's aware of LeBron, but he picked Kobe. And now we got to get into, well, was it disrespectful? If it was this, okay, it's disrespectful. What y'all going to do about it? What y'all going to do about it? Y'all going to tear down Brady's legacy compared to, come on, stop. Like, stop.